Stop playing around that. It's not why we're here. Turn it off. Turn it off. About time you've done some proper work. So anyway, yeah, we've got a little bit further. So we've got this plugged in. This is more like a tutorial for setting up the studio, but at the end of the day, this is the corner of the bedroom. Come on, Andy, build those shelves for me. This is very ad lib. So where was we at? Basically, we were trying to get program change to make a song mode for the Digitone and get all the rest of this shit working. So basically, we're pretty much there now. Let's get into the correct pattern bank. Sequence bank. They're called sequences on here. They're called patterns everywhere else. So basically, we want to get on next sequence on. I've come across something peculiar, so we need to be on that one. Get back to where we're. There we go. So got our patterns again. So let me try and cut to the chase. So here we are on pattern 1. We're gonna launch pattern 1. We're gonna cue pattern 1, and there's a problem. Of course there's a fucking problem. Now, that one has probably still got a remaining problem on it. Sounds surprised because I am. But anyway, let's dig deeper. Right, here we go. Here we go. This all makes sense in a minute, I promise. Let's turn down what we don't need. We don't need the hi-hats. We don't need the farting noise coming from this prophecy. I'll explain all that in a minute. Let's even turn down the MPC itself with my... See, they don't have that standard spooky mute button on the back normally. We'll even turn down the Digitone because it's distracting, and we're going to turn off this stuff. Turn it off. Stop it. We need the sound though, so we're going to leave that on. So, you can skip forward normally in the video to this point when we're actually prepared to talk about what we're supposed to be doing. So we're on pattern 13, and we're on pattern 13 here. And if we press play, you can't actually hear it now, but basically it's on 13. It's on 13 here. I'm going to press 14. I'm going to skip using next bar, right, and it moves to 14. 15, next bar, it moves to 15. Yeah, you with me? So this is working great. Yeah, it's working great. So I can go through all these 9, 10 until I get to, I think it was, I left it on, right, so 12, 8. That's working. 7. 7's working. 6. 6 is working. 5. 1. Right, okay, so there's a problem on 1. There's a problem on 2. And it's freaked out. I think it's actually stopped, so let's just stop it. It does that occasionally. Fighting against these things. Right. This will be far more interesting in a minute. We actually need a bit of sound so we can tell it's playing. There we go. So we're playing, but we're in the wrong bank. Pattern 2, wrong bank. Pattern 3. That's the correct bank. So number 3 is working. What about number 4? Let's use skip ahead. Number 4 is working. So it's number 1 and 2 which we've got some issues with the program change, and that's really what this video is about. So very confusing when you've got all these things set up and then 1 or 2 of them's not working. You're scratching your head, or you might have made configurations for other things and then don't quite understand what's going on. So basically, if we dive into pattern 1, we can compare the differences between the other ones that are working and this one that's not. So in main mode, you will see that we need to be on the correct track, which is 16. We've allocated 16 for the program change track. Now, interestingly, this is set correctly because it is pattern 1 that we're on. If we look at next sequence, pattern 1. In main, we're on program change 0. It actually starts at off, so 0 is 1 effectively. That's fine. Now the issue here is actually not on this track, and that's the peculiar thing, because on the Digitone, if we look at the settings, let's have a look at the MIDI configuration. So you go into MIDI config, we go into channels actually. So in channels, we've got our tracks 1 to 4 set to 1 to 4, and then our MIDI tracks set to 5, 6, 7, 8, which is just logical. The effects is on 9, auto 10. Now program change in is on 16, in and out 16, and multi-map change is actually on 16 as well. And just while we're here, we might as well check out the rest of the settings. So on port config, basically turbo is off. Everything is set to MIDI. Yeah. Output channels are set to the track channels, so it'll be 1 to 4. And also we have output for CC. We have the encoder, which I believe is this. It's not required for what we're doing, so it's all pretty much set to internal. Receive notes is obviously on, and CC is on. Right, so the main thing to note there is that when we go into sync as well, just to look at the rest of the settings, clock receive is off, send is off, everything is pretty much off other than program change receive, and we've switched the send off because we just don't want this thing to do any more work than what is needed. It doesn't need to compute the clocks, it doesn't need to send anything, it only does what we've set here exactly, which is ideal. If we wanted to use the sequencer, we'd configure this differently. So in channels, the thing to note is that program change is set to 16. So we come across another bug or a glitch or something, but basically the problem you just see here a minute ago with switching the patterns to the program change is something not to do with the program change channel itself, which is configured correctly. But if we switch to the tracks, which are actually got the Digitone channel 1 and 2, so basically channel 1, channel 2. Now those, as you can see here, this one has got one setting slightly different. This bank MSB is set to 0. If we go to this track, there you go, 0, 0. So those are on 0, 0. That one is on off. And then on the other, see, it takes a bit of investigation. It's not sort of as easy as you can say, oh, there it is, and just throw a shoe at it to get rid of it. So this is a MIDI track which is probably not being used. The program change is switched off. It's set to an independent channel, and the bank MSB, most significant byte, is switched off. It's going to go through the rest of the track. So this one's an internal track, internal track, internal track, internal track, MIDI track. That one is definitely switched off kind of thing. It's actually for an analog synth. It doesn't need any program change, so that one is not what we're looking for. This one's an internal one. This one's an internal one. Internal, 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 internal. So pretty much we've got 13, 14. That's internal. And that's our program change track, right? There's none of us configured. And the default for MSB is off. So obviously the problem must be on track the MIDI tracks that are using track 1, 2, or 16. So basically, this one, if we put this bank MSB to 0, to cut a long story short, that should get rid of the problem. Now, if we look at track 14 and this bank MSB is on as well, we'll turn that off. So effectively, track 1, track 2. Now, basically, the program change on these channels has now been disabled, including bank MSB. So we look at 16 again, and bank MSB is off. We should have a program change configured. I think this is pattern 1, so it should be on 0, right? There we go. That is set to 0. So now let's check if this works. So let's do play. Let's get it to a different pattern. Now it's definitely switched to number 16, 16. Let's go back to 1. And it's still not playing. It's still not doing what we want it to do. So this is what I'd come across during setting this up. So we've got all these working, but these are not. Now, I say the reason is not that straightforward. So it's not playing, or not changing the. It's not changing the pattern how we want it. So we're trying to find a reason why. Like live on camera, this is more difficult than what you would expect, but let's delve a little bit longer. String, we want those MIDI tracks here. So 13 and 14, remember that. Program change off, program change off, MIDI track. Right, so let's try it on 0. I'll compare it to the other tracks that I've set up in a minute. So we got 13, 14, and the weird thing is, unless I just did do that, I'm sure there's a fucking bug here. I'm sure of it. It's just, it's so difficult to notice, hence the video. So let's get this in. That's it. So we're on pattern 16, we're on 16. Go back to 1, and it's still not working, right? So let's go back into main. But wait, let's just wait and give it an extra play and a stop play, right? So it's definitely not there, right? Definitely not there. So we're just going to go main. It's depressing. But basically, 13 and 14, program changes off. MSB, let's try it off again. That's exactly how we had it a second ago, right? If you remember, both was switched to off. Right, that one is off. Off, off, off. So anything with MIDI, that is definitely switched off. That one's actually set to the wrong port, so let's put it on the right port. Program change can be left off. Channel 14. Yep, that's fine. It's not actually in use. Yeah, just to check that it wasn't interfering with it, let's switch to 16. It's already switched to 16. Switch back to 1. No, it ain't that. So we are fault finding. But the fault, that ain't it. So like I was thinking, definitely track 13 or 14. Now, this is a quirk, I'm sure of it. And I probably won't even notice what I've done until I look back at the video a few times. Because when it starts working, trust me, you'll be scratching your head too. Alright, so let's get back to 16. Right, it's on pattern 16, it's on 16. Switch to 1. And it still don't fucking work. That is some bitch. So, we're really grabbing at straws now what this problem is. And the weird thing is, let's switch this to MSB off. MSB off. Right, it's definitely MSB off, program change off, track 1, track 2. Right, couldn't be simpler, right? And then, just in case it's like a last default thing, that's weird. Right now, I can figure that is weird. I don't know if you've just noticed, because I've just noticed, and it might just be the way this thing works. But this is the whole point, that you need to see this while I'm doing it, because it is like, it's twisting my brain a little bit. Now, see this program change, it's turned itself back off again. We're on a completely different track. We're on 16, and that should be on 0. Right, now if I click here, then maybe that's like entered it properly. Right, and then let's go next sequence 16. It is on 16. Go next bar 1 or track 1, and it's still not fixed it. So what is going on? Oh look, we've switched back to pattern 1, and our program change is switched off, and MSB is switched off. Crazy. So seeing the 16 works, let's go to 16. It's playing on 16. Just check it switches 15. Yeah, 15. And then back to 16 again. Works like a charm, right? Then let's go in there. We can see this is sequence 16. Bank MSB is off. Bank LSB is on. Least significant is on. It's on the correct channel. And it's on the correct pattern, right? So it's 15, 16. So what is wrong? So we're going to switch. It's got me. It's fixable because I've fixed 4 others already, but this is really like, why? So it's switched to pattern number 1, right? It's not diver. It's going to take ages for this video. We're on 17 minutes already and we've not done nothing. So basically, how to waste a lot of time on figuring out what you're supposed to be doing. Look, now I've switched back to sequence number 1. Why is program change on sequence number 1 still switching itself off? Ask yourself that question. Now, I'm not 100% on this, but what I would do in this situation right now, and it's probably going to be confusing for everyone, because if it does work, then I'll be like a genius. But if it doesn't, then I'll just look like a twat. So let's switch it to like an internal track, and then back to MIDI, and then switch it to program 0, and that one is off, right? I'm going to toggle the thing just to make sure. I'm either going to like switch that from one to the other just to make sure, like, some settings are like toggled and saved in. And then rather than messing around going to the thing, let's just switch sequence from 2 to 1. And right, our number's still in there now, right? Can you see that? The number's saved, but will it save after I press next? This is the question. So let's get on 16, press play. It's on 16 here, it's on 16 here, but will it go to 1? Yes, it does. Right, so I've just proved something there in front. It's taken a long time to prove it, but there it is. I would say that's some kind of glitch or a bug. So that's one to watch out for, and that's pretty much the whole point for this video, is that ironing out these things can be quite painful. Because even when you're doing it right, something is you're fighting against something which is like the demons inside. So we was right the whole time. It's just that we weren't shrewd enough to see that program change number weren't holding, and then when we switched patterns basically from sequence whatever 2 or 15 to 1, the number was gone. What causes that, I'm not sure, but switching from MIDI tracks to internal tracks and back again, and then toggling everything back and on, it seems to work. So really, ideally, we want to get this saved, so save it and do something that we don't normally do halfway through a video, which is basically turn off the bloody thing. Because it's worth doing. It's worth doing, because a lot of this was set last night and I was thinking, right, that's it, sweet, switch it all off, turned it on all day, nothing works, or half of it works. So the whole point is shut it down, bring it back online as if we were doing a live set or any gig or anything like that, or in the recording studio in the other room, and see if it holds. So yeah, the first note and the these glitches do live inside these machines sometimes. So it's taken a while to shut down. Could have pulled the plug out, I guess, quicker. But let's let it shut down. Apparently inside is a Linux computer. It runs Linux OS, and the Akai MPC software is running on top of Linux. So there is a small processor inside, so it's a bit like a cheap laptop running Linux with the hardware pads. Great pads, actually. I like the size of this unit. We fitted speakers inside, a button to mute them. So while this thing is shutting down, let's talk about this. So some quirks with the program change. What I found was those quirks seem to, when I played around with program change, let's build it back up again. When I played around with program change for the EMU, I wanted to use the same tracks that was used for the Digitone 1 and 2. And knowing that Digitone is switched on channel 16, I thought, yeah, why not do it? And we'll use tracks 1 and 2 to switch the EMU, which handles program change per track, per MIDI track. Yeah, logically you'd think, yeah, it's a great idea. So I did that, and it was just for the demo, really. But like I say, when I come back to it, I realised that there were a few things getting funky. So we need to go browse, places, get the project, open the project, load it. It's going to take a little bit to load. Yeah, so basically adding extra program changes to tracks 1 and 2 on top of the program change which is set aside for the Digitone on track 16 did cause some problems, although I might have been able to iron those out by doing what I just did, which was toggle the MIDI on and off for that track. But obviously that would, you're going to run into these things, but it's up to you whether you want to. I think reliably we can get channel 16 to do program change for the Digitone, but adding other program changes, don't know. It's kind of a trial and error thing, but sort of things to look out for is this. So what I would say to you is this: number one, why that setting didn't hold in the MPC, and number two, why is it even affecting the Digitone? I think the reason it's affecting the Digitone is because the actual number didn't hold in there, in at least in this circumstance. So it was a strange one, and you've just witnessed it. So we're back up and running again. Let's go on to 16. Yep, it's playing. It says 16 over here. Not the most interesting video, this, but there we go. We're going to switch to 1, and it switched to 1. Excellent. We know 13 works as do next bar. We know 14 works as do next bar. That's it, we're already on it. And then we know 2 doesn't work because we tested it before. I think it's 2 and 3 that are still not working. So let's go there, next bar. That's it. So basically, yeah, that ain't working. So we're on 2 and it's still on 14. So we can go into main and see if we can track down that issue that we just had and see if we can actually stick the sword straight in its heart without all that other messing around beforehand, like 15 minutes of scratching the old barnet. So let's think clearly with the sound muted. So we've got the kick. Definitely nothing to do with that one because it's no MIDI. So all internal. We've got our track, which is actually, it's on a different port. So we'll put, there's nothing to do with it, this, but I'm just configuring as I go along. So we're going to put that one on the correct channel. It's nothing to do with that one. Let's go here. No. No. Strings. No. No. Here we go. So we're on 13 and 14 again. And our program changes on 16 now. Weird thing is, on this particular one, which has got the same problem, it ain't switching, you can see the program change number is on 1. It says 1. It says 1. It's on 16. MSB is off, right? So why don't that work? Right, so we're going to say, all right, let's point the finger at the other tracks. We're going to go back to track 13, and yeah, lo and behold, here's my program changes that I set up for the EMU when it was plugged in. Anyway, we're not planning on having that plugged in, and if we do, it'd be a Morpheus plugged into something else. So here we go. We're going to just get rid of these program changes and see if the problem goes away. This is a secondary thing. We need to keep the channels. That's it. That one is done. We'll switch to the next channel. And another program change is set up. Let's get rid of that one. Off. And then MSB off as well. Right, you're learning here. Now, for me, I would say, right, that has fixed it. There are no other MIDI tracks. There are no other program change commands on any other tracks. It should bloody work. Let's try it. Switch to 16 first. We know that one works. We're on 16 here. Let's switch to 2. Right, it worked. See? Genius. Switch to 1. You're going to wait for the end of the bar. We're going to press next. I think we're going to press next. There we go. Switch to 1 and back again. Perfect. Works like a charm. Now the other thing I've actually seen when setting all this up is that you can quite easily see it here. It might be something that Akai can improve in the future if someone actually puts it out there. But basically, when you're playing the track, and we can switch from pattern 1 to pattern 2, and the program change is working. If we use the next bar, that works great. But if we use sudden command, right, no program change is sent. But let's see, I know it's out of sync at the minute, but let's see if when it gets to the end of the bar, it actually sends it at that point. So we're looking for number 2 over here. I'll keep an eye on that for you. But will it actually send out our program change? No, it didn't, right? So I was expecting that it would, but it doesn't. If I press stop and then play again, yes, it does. So Akai, that is something really that could be improved. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with really good timing that can hit that sudden button and get that to really sudden. And if not, why not get this sudden button to work on a 16th note, a bit like the RS7000 did, because otherwise it's pretty pointless. Because, I mean, who's got millisecond timing that you can hit that sudden button anyway? Anyway, so we've got one more I think to do. It's number 3. Oh, actually it changed. So maybe we're done now. That would be nice if we could finish there. And number 4, yes, number 4 works. And number 8, where we had that weird problem. And number 7, oh, now 7's not working. 6 is working, so I think 7 is really the last one. Yeah, 7's not working. Let's check out 7. So we're on 7. Track, there we go, track 16, program change. The number is definitely entered. This all looks good. So the conflict must be on the other MIDI tracks. We've got our 777 track as well. That's fine. MIDI track, it could be on different places, to be honest. One feature that they should really put into the MPC is this: when you're in main mode, you're looking at sequences and you can press this pencil. We can copy a sequence, yeah, and also we can copy a sequence, but we can't move a sequence, right? And I'd like to see move a sequence, so we can actually move a sequence within the banks to wherever we want it. And that's it. Simple as that. Because at the minute you have to copy it and then delete the other one, which is a real pain. The same goes for tracks. If I go into tracks here on track mute, you can see this is a bloody mess. I got tracks all over the place, and I wanted to logically lay this out a little bit more, improve efficiency. And the way to do that is to go into main, press the pencil on the track. But you have to look at these empty blocks where you could at least add another command here, right? And it could just simply say move track. This one says copy track, so you need to copy the track to an empty track, and then you need to like delete the one you just copy. You know, it goes on. So what was we doing? Oh yeah, we're looking for the track. It's a start of track 1, right? That's an internal track, ain't that one? Not that one. No. Could be that one. That one's yeah. It could be that one, because that one is set up for some other equipment. It was from a previous project, and basically there is a program change number on it. But for the time being, let's go. So that's track 5. Then track 6 is set up similarly. Yeah, in fact it's identical. And then we're looking for our Digitone track, if there is one. Here we go, Digitone 1 on 10 and 2 on 11. So slightly different. The other one was like 13 and 14. Okay, come on, give us the move command. So basically, yes, there are program changes set up. The MSB and the LSB is set differently. So let's clear them out and see if we get rid of the problem. Now, like I said, why a program change on track 1 or 2, which effectively this is on, would affect a device which is listening on channel 16? I don't know. All I want to do is fix the problem, but you could ask Electron that, or you could ask Akai that same question. But basically, let's just try and get this fixed as quick as we can. So we're on, that one is done. Let's go to the next track, which is the second one in use. Switch that MSB off, that one to 0. The track's correct, program changes off. So now we're just left with, let's go back a track, because we know we've got them EMU ones set up. That is internal, external. They're the ones. We're on channel 14. There is a program change set, and they both are set to the same one. Let's see if it actually interferes, or whether the problem's actually fixed already. So next sequence, we'll go from 7 to 8. So let's get on to 8. Okay, so we're in 8 and it's on 8. Let's go back to 7. It switches to 7. So what I'm saying to you is, what we've learnt is that the program change on any other channel, at least as far as it looks, that see this Electron, even though it is receiving on 16, but it's playing back on 1, 2, 3 and 4. It's also got MIDI, some internal MIDI tracks on like 1 to 8, and then there's an effects one, I think, set. All the channels are in there in MIDI, in settings, MIDI channels, so you can just look at what is set up for whatever channel is set up. And I'm saying possibly if you look at the different tracks in here, does the channel conflict with a program change on here with any of the tracks that are on the Digitone? It could cause you a problem, as we've found out. So or is it the MSB? So we know it's working right now, and this is working with a program change at least on bank 1, with the most significant switched off. So let's put this one to like a random number 6 and see if it changes. And this is on, remember, this is on 14, and 14 is not used on this device. So let's do play it. That's actually number 8. Let's go to 7. See, 7's working, but does 8 still work? Yes, it still does work. So a bit of a mystery. But if we was to change this channel, right, whatever, let's change it to 1, you'd say, right, definitely now it's not going to work, right? So let's find out. Just like, we're trying to be thorough here. So switch to 7. It definitely works.